Hello everyone and welcome back. We're on the road again and we're heading south. It's a wonderful coastal area here and lots of pretty things to paint. Not really that though. That's not a pretty thing, although it's a fantastic thing. It's the only remaining nuclear power station left in Scotland. I think it's called Torness, as it appears behind there. So quite a thing that. We've got no coal-fired power stations anymore, so it's just that. So we're heading from East Lothian to the Scottish borders now, and then after that it goes into England. And we're coming up to our turn-off, and we're heading to a place called Cove. There it is, there's the sign for it. It's just down here, and it's a really unusual place, and not many people have been here. It's not particularly well known, and I'm sure the locals would like it that it isn't particularly well known as well. But it's a tiny and most beautiful harbour set in magnificent cliffs. A really wonderful place, right down here. Very hidden place, you don't really expect it. It's a very old fishing port. Tiny, and highly unusual in its location really, and how hidden it is. Oh no, gotta block it. There we go. Better safe than sorry.
So we've come down the path and we have a choice of how to get to the harbour. We can either go this way or we can go that way.
I think we'll go through the tunnel, Tanya. God, it really does get cold, doesn't it? It's freezing.
Hope there aren't any bats.
So we've arrived at Cove Harbour, this fantastic place. It's one of my favourite places near me, really. I haven't taken you here before, but it's this beautiful place, and it's pretty old. It's a really traditional fishing village here, and very isolated as well. We came through the little tunnel there, which was quite a lot of fun, and it was really cold in the middle of it. We come out and we're faced with this fantastic view. We've had a really good look around Cove and it's a fantastic place. I love the noise here, the waves and the birds. It's really nice on the hearing. But we've sort of selected this area, and I find the most difficult part of doing a painting is sort of selecting the area. It's almost irritating. Try to find that spot you think, wow, I can really paint that one. But this is the one I've selected for the moment, and there's probably another one around the other side of the harbour too, which I might do as well. So initially I'm going to do a sketch of this, and this time I'm going to do a sketch and then take it back to the studio and then do the painting, but it will be within this same video. So after this we'll go straight to the studio. Okay, so let's get on with the little sketch. Just you got to take a quick look at it and work out what you're doing. I always like to draw a little box around it, so that I get a sort of idea of scale on it. Now I'm very free with my drawing. I try not to worry too much about it. So let's just start at the top here. Let's get the side of the house. I think it's important to keep on making marks. That's the most important thing. You keep on at it, so that you keep. It's almost like drawing's a funny business. You've got to keep a flow going, and it's easy to get stuck. I think one of the most important parts of painting and drawing is courage. So you can see I just work on it. If you make a mistake, which you will, don't worry, just carry on. My pencil tends to just keep on moving. My pen in this case. I tend to draw in biro. Partly it's because well, the main reason is so it doesn't smudge. I don't like smudging smudges in my work. Difficult to explain drawing. I think it's more of a click feeling. Once you can draw, you just do it. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I'm not trying to get every dot and comma in either. I'm trying to simplify the picture as much as I can. If you try and put too much detail in, you do create the proverbial rock for your back, which is never a good idea. Interesting cliff that's coming in here. With painting, which is what we're trying to do, we're not trying to be draftsmen, and I think that's an important realization for you to realize. We're not trying to be the best drawer in the world. We're trying to be a really good painter, and the two are different. If you notice the pace of what I'm doing, pace of drawing is quite interesting. If you see someone who stops and thinks and is it that or is it that, I don't think that's the right way to go. Let's get it done. Right, we've got the mast coming down here of this boat here, so let's hit it about there. The boat's the interesting part in this painting, I think, or this drawing. There's so much to draw as well. The drawing could go on forever if you let it. So remember, we're trying to just get the impression of what we're doing. I treat my drawing very similarly to my paintings. I try not to overcomplicate them, and I try to simplify them really. It's quite good to put a bit of shading in as well. Give you a better idea of what's going on. Trying to work out where it goes. So one of the great things to realise with the drawing is to realise that this is just part of the process. This is not the end deal of what you're trying to create. For me, it is just a process which I just simply do. I don't try not to think about it too much. There's that classic phrase, really. Keep it simple, stupid. It's one of the best phrases there is. I try and live my life by it, really. When I overthink things, I think, oh dear, this isn't the right way to go, James. Okay, we've got a buoy coming in here, and the water. Another buoy here. The shadow of this wall coming in, and then we've got another boat here which I think is quite nice, just here coming in. Then in here this is the shoreline, or the where the water's come into, and there's a reflection of the boat, the sail coming in there, and also the buildings behind. There's a sort of hint of the building behind. Thought my pen was going to run out then. It still might. It did run out, so let me just get another pen. That's what happens when you don't buy proper Bic pens. They're never very good. So something like that. It's quite fun. By the miracles of time travel, I'm in the studio again, and I've done my drawing here, and it's a rough sketch. I'm not interested in doing a detailed sketch of it, so I've basically drawn out what my sketch was before. So to start off, what I'm going to do, I always start at the top of the picture. I've got to make sure I don't get in the way of the camera. So I'm going to start off with my traditional cobalt blue at the top. Now I'm going to invent the sky and have a try and get an interesting skyscapes, trying to have some clouds coming in. I think clouds are such an important part in the sky. They're a tricky. A lot of people struggle with clouds, and they are quite tricky. But again, the more you practice, you see how I've left spaces for the clouds to come in at the top there. See that? How I've left those spaces there. I don't want to go over it again. I don't want to. I like to have as minimal a touching of the canvas of the paper as I can. So I'm now going to add a little bit of Veridian to it and start painting the lower parts of it. I like a change in colour. Change in colour is always a fantastic thing. So that's a bit of Veridian in there. And I'm going to change the colour here. So you can see I've got the clouds sort of forming there, as if by magic. So I like it going into Veridian at the bottom of the clouds, of the skyline. I think it just has a nice effect. I'm going to soften some of these lines, soft lines, hard lines. That's always quite nice to do. And then maybe add a little bit of raw sienna, just a smidgen of it, just to give the clouds a little bit of shape and change of colour again, so it feels that there's a three-dimensional feel to it. Just a little bit of raw sienna. How does that look? I think it's quite nice. Oh, I like that. Now, just going to darken the top again with a little bit of cobalt blue, just to add a little bit. Still a little bit, I need to mix it up a bit more. So that's just pure cobalt blue at the top. And it's going to flood down a little bit into it, just so I get a little bit of gradation of the sky. One thing that you might notice if you do a landscape, that it's always a little bit bluer the higher you go in the sky. There we go. What do you think of that? It's quite nice, I think. Okay, so that's a sky with a little bit of interest, I hope. Maybe add a little bit more subtlety to it. Subtlety is what you're looking for. So just darkening little sections of that. Style is such an important part of painting, and we have to work out, before we start even to think about what we're going to paint, we've got to work out what style, how we're going to paint it. Is it going to be a loose painting, a detailed painting? What's it going to be? And style is such an important thing to consider. So that was my usual mop, my 13mm Winsor and Newton sable, well, synthetic sable mop, which I like. I think it's a really nice thing. Okay, so now we're going to go into the buildings, and I'm going to. It's got a slate. It's got to make sure I do this lower, otherwise it'll be out of focus. I'm going to be doing the slate tiles, which are a sort of grey colour. So let's put those in there like that. And remember, I always like to change the colour. Change of colour for me is everything in a picture. I love changing colour. We've got so many colours on the palette. I think it's nice to use them. There we go. So that's the sort of slate roof coming in. Isn't that pretty? I like that a lot. Okay, so that's the slate roof. First layer of the slate roof. And now we're going to go into the actual building. So maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. Hope my head's not getting in the way. A little bit of yellow ochre. Try and get. I am an impressionistic painter. I've never really been interested in detail. Detail is something that has not interested me throughout my artistic endeavours. There we go. That's nice. I do I do I do more than one layer. I'm not obsessive about just one layer. I like two layers. So sometimes it can be dangerous. The more layers you do, the more chances of it going slightly wrong. So you can see that's the nice feel of that, and I like that. I think that has a nice gentle feel about it. It's certainly within the scope of Impressionism. So I'll change my brush back to my normal one. That last one was a sable, a number 10, I think. Brushes, you shouldn't really worry too much about brushes and what brush choice you make. I have a very simple rule with brushes. Big area, big brush. Little area, little brush. So simple. I don't want to complicate the issue at all. So I try and keep it as simple as I know how to. So then we've got the wall coming in here. It's going to be so nice to get back into this videography. I have actually missed it. Tanya's been having to go away quite a lot, and that's sort of put pay to a lot of videos. So we haven't really been able to do it. Isn't that right, Tanya?
It sure is. And I miss it as well.
It's nice, isn't it?
I miss the editing part.
Thank goodness Tanya likes the editing part, because that's the part that I just don't like. I don't like editing.
Hence why your last video that you did take a while to come out.
Yeah,
because
Tanya
it's
did.
for me to get back to edit it.
Tanya did. I think I've got a little bit of a problem with editing. It's not something I enjoy. Tanya likes it, so that's a great combination.
And hopefully I do a good job of it.
So, as I said, working from top to bottom, that's always my preferred way of doing things. Right, and we need to, this wall here is a little bit bluer as it goes down. There are lots of rocks in the scene. Oh, maybe that's too blue. It's definitely too blue. Nothing like that, but does that matter? For me, no. It was the wrong choice of colour, but sometimes why not have a nice bit of colour coming through? Why not just go with that? It's the thing I love about the impressionistic style, is that you can make mistakes. You can have an error, but is it an error? That's the pathway coming in. So you see there, I've left a little bit of white paint, so it separates. Such an important trick to learn that, to when to leave a little bit of white paint for the highlights. So we're going to work down, and I was going to get progressively darker. Remember mixing? One thing that I'm very passionate about is the idea that you shouldn't overmix. And you see that? You still see this. You can still see the constituent colours in there, the blue and the brown, and then you take that up and then you pop it on. And that stays on the paper. That feeling of that colour stays there. I love that. Okay, that's a boat that's coming in there. Nice darker part of this natural stone that's there. Yeah, and then it goes really dark again at the bottom. So my dark colours are, if I'm trying to paint a very dark colour, I am ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Those are my two go-to dark colours. There we go. You have all sorts of rock formations here coming in. Okay. All right, take a deep breath. It's always quite an intense thing. So we're going to try and resolve this a little bit more. The underpainting is down and looking good. So now it's a question of going over the roof a bit more, just to give it a little bit more shape. So back into my ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. You can see that there. I'm going to give it a little bit more shape. Maybe a little bit lighter. So this is a second layer on it. Trying to sort of, you have to have some sort of delineation. That was a mistake there. So you've got to give it a little bit of shape. You can't just leave it completely loose. Give it some shape. And now it's got some interesting chimneys. A bit lighter. Some here. And there. There's the chimneys. And you see I've done it in a different colour as well, just to give it a little bit of difference. So we have a darker section, so an ultramarine blue and burnt umber, darker section for the underneath of the right. I think the front of the buildings need a little bit of a darkening process, so I'm going to just a little bit of yellow ochre. It's just I don't really mind what colour it is so much, it's just got to be a little bit darker. Oftentimes you don't have to worry too much about colour, because sometimes you're really just looking for a change in value. Okay, it's still very loose still, if you can see that. Now there are some very dark trees in front of this building. Hooker's green I quite like. I have two greens. I have Hooker's green and Veridian, and Hooker's green's a really interesting colour. Let's see if I can add some. Nice and dark. So. It goes in there a bit as well. I like pretty paint. Because I love Impressionism, I'm very concerned about the aesthetics of how paint goes down. That's my main interest in painting, really. How does paint react? And I find that fascinating. So you can see that's having quite a nice sort of soft feel to it. I love that soft feel. Right, we're going to move down again into the wall, and there's darker elements of this wall. Sort of striations coming in. Where the rock has turned on itself. Inspiring people in video is something I enjoy. I think watercolour isn't really as popular as it could be, and I think that's sad. I think watercolour is a fantastic medium, and to publicise watercolour is a great thing to do. I think artists should try and make it more popular, because it is such a fantastic medium, especially if you're limited for space. If you struggle for space in your house, then I think watercolour is a great thing to challenge yourself, and it is a challenge. I'm sort of I feel a little bit nervous at the moment because I haven't been painting watercolour for a while now. When you're an artist, you have to do other things as well, and I've been focusing on oil paintings, and so I haven't painted watercolour for a long time. Just trying to get what I'm trying to do at the moment is trying to get the right value in, and the right value is such an important part of painting. Add a little bit more detail to the houses, so that you have this quite dark line here. I don't know whether it's too wet yet, and just blowing it a bit, and yeah, that's nice. So just my normal two colours, but burnt umber and ultramarine blue, nothing special. You don't need many colours in watercolour painting. It's not See, those are all the colours I've got, not a massive amount. And the more pictures, the more colours you have, the more it clutters your mind up, clutters my mind up. I know where I stand when I have 12 colours or something, 14 colours, something like that. I know where I stand. Yeah, okay, that's quite nice. The next thing to do is just put a few of the doors in, and I'm going to use one of my favourite colours for that, which is Cerulean blue. Really nice colour. Just to have a change. What do they say? A change is as good as a holiday. Not sure that's true. Might be. Might be true. Still a little bit wet, but I won't put those on as too wet. Just when it's too wet, it just goes and you can't see it. Nice. That's pretty, isn't it? Okay, just take stock again. So I've really been focusing on the top half of the painting at the moment, and trying to get that loose effect, which I think it has. I think that is nice and loose. That's what I quite like that. You can still see it's a house without having to go into all that, what I feel unnecessary detail. So we're going to move down now into the shoreline. So it's lowish tide in this picture. So I'm just placing in this sort of darker stretch now. It's a sort of sand effect on it, but it is in shadow. So if it's in shadow, it needs to be a little bit cool. If you're into cameras, you know that what white balance does. The cooler the light, the bluer it gets. Okay. Let's paint there's a little boat in there now, so I'm going to have a go at painting that in, right over here. Right, okay, so I'm going to put a little layer on it first. So this is an underwash. It's because there's white in it, so the middle band is white. So I might just leave it for a moment, just to let that go off. So then I can there's a blue here and a dark red here. I think that's fine. I'll leave it like that. So I often stop and have to think about paintings. Really, sometimes it's difficult to work out the next step, and so the next step really is these little stones that are over here, and also there's a darkening here as it goes down the hill. So I need to work out how to do that. So there's a blueness in these area behind the boat, even though it's sand. There's still a blueness, and then it changes colour into what we recognise as sand because it's in full light. So I'm going to go back to yellow ochre and get this beach effect here in. See that? So you've got to really consider things a bit, and mainly it's broken down into warm and cool colours. See, this is in light, so there's the colour of the sand still, but as it goes, I'll show you. As it goes into the shadow area, then you'll have a bluer sand. See that bluer sand in here? It is still the same sand, but it's a blue sand. Painting for video is always a little bit strange because you never have your full concentration, and you always have to think about the video. But it's pretty good. It's pretty nice too. You still concentrate. So you see that. So that's in light. That's in shade. So it's a little bit bluer. And then we've got the reflections of the buildings, which I think are really nice. So how do I depict that? So what I'm going to do is put the light tone in first, and the light tone is of the sea. So I'm going to use Cobalt. Let's get this down. So Cobalt blue here. We have a little cerulean. It's a greenish tone, and I'm going to apply that sort of wash. It's a bit too bright. Right? Apply that light wash over things because it is I need to paint the dark over the top of that. So those are the highlights. Those are the highlights there. Watercolour is so fun. It's so, I don't know what it is about watercolour. It's so exciting. It's not like oil paints. Oil paints aren't as exciting as watercolour. And I think it's because it takes a long time for things to develop. And there's a lot of pauses, and mixing colours so slow in oil painting. But in watercolour, it's so quick. A real speed to it in watercolour. Right, I'm going to go into the boat a bit. So it's a blue boat. So I just put one little blue in there. But I'll need more blue later. Change my brush again to a smaller brush. So I'm going to go for this brush now, which is a number 6. A different blue, because now I'm painting the boat. So because it's in shade, it's a blue. But so that was Cobalt blue. So now I'm going to use Cerulean blue, which is a little bit of a greener blue. Make sure I get the right amount on, because it's quite light. So it's a slightly greener blue. So you're trying to get differences again. Differences is so important in painting. I need difference when I paint. Okay, that's nice. So we're going to go back into the shoreline now, and the darker colours. So it's not so much blue; it's more brown, I think. So there's more. The rocks, I think, are brown. So lots of browny blue, maybe. There's lots of little. Trying to create the three-dimensional shape of things. Softening some of these things, some of the things that are a bit hard. So I'm just adding a little bit of water to the mix and sort of just softening the edges. Softening and edges is such an important thing. You don't want it all the time, but you do need to vary the softness. Trying to create some sort of texture in there, a feeling of rocks. Change the colour again, so let's make it a bluer rock. The real skill, I think, in watercolour isn't mixing the colours as perfectly accurately. I don't think that's the real skill in watercolour. It helps, but it's not the skill. To me, the skill of watercolour painting is the art of interpreting things. How you interpret. You've got a puzzle in front of you, and how are you going to interpret that? How are you going to depict that? If you try it in a photographic way, then you're creating a rod for your back and you'll never finish a painting. But we want to create an interpretation of the scene. That's what makes watercolour painting so exciting. A bit of dry brush there. Don't do dry brush very often. Now we're heading off to get a little bit of a bigger brush. We're heading off to the shoreline now, and this is where it really gets into it. This shadow is basically looking for the reflection of the houses. So I'm going to do, it's quite a brown shadow. So it's going to make sure I do it in line. So there's the reflection coming in of the shadow. And we need to alter that to make it darker as it goes into the water. So if we had painted that first, it would have been difficult to get the blue tone onto it. I'm going to change the brush slightly thinner, not that thin. So back to that brush. Inspiration is what you need in painting, and I hope that these are going to inspire you to paint, not necessarily all the time outdoors, but indoors too. I love painting outdoors, but there is a problem with painting outdoors, especially in Scotland, and it's called the weather. Brutal at times. waves coming in. Okay, let's paint under the boat now. So it's very dark under the boat. So you have put some blue in the water as well, just to liven that up a bit, to give it a sense that, you know, this is water, not just the brown reflection. Well, it's going pretty well despite my lack of practice. Those are the waves coming in. So you can see the light patches in between of the base layer. Now we're going to change the brush again, and we've got this bottom corner to do. And I'm going to choose Cerulean blue, and it is more in the photograph I've got there. It is more Cerulean blue, but I'm doing it as well because it's a change of colour from the sky. So it was a little bit too dramatic. I tend not to test. I tend to just say, well, that'll be about that. So some people, they have a little bit of paper and they very carefully test what colour it is, but I don't do that. And I think it would get darker towards the end, and maybe add a little bit of cerulean blue just to give it a little bit of a change again. A little bit of water here as well, so I'm going to tone that a bit just to give it the feeling that there has been water, and it's wet sand. Good. Now for the little detail-y parts of it. So the two details I've got really is this boat here and this boat here. So I've got the underpainting done, so that's dry by now. So I need to place the blue on. So I use ultramarine blue and a bit of, just to darken it off, a little bit of burnt umber. So that's going to go in here. More blue, that was a bit black. So you see I've left a little bit of white at the top, just otherwise it's going to just melt into the background. A little bit of red, I think I'll use burnt sienna for that red. Red here. Okay. And then really blacken it off at the bottom. You can see that there's a sort of evenness of detail on it. There's no, I haven't focused on one area in particular. Now for the boat, the other boat. Right, I think that's a cobalt blue. So let's get that cobalt blue going in there. Just pure cobalt blue, nothing fancy. Bit of ultramarine now, just to darken it off at the underneath section. It's got a little rudder here too. So what I'm looking for is value here. The colours don't really matter so much. They're just burnt umber and ultramarine. But I'm really just looking at the tone of what's happening to give that sense of that shadow. Right, okay, so just a few details on the boat. I don't know how long, I do lose track when I'm painting. I lose track of time. I don't compute time when I'm painting. So I have no idea how long this has been going on for. Here, back of the boat here. So I'm very careful not to over detail. If I over detail, then I'm not going to finish it. I like a detail painting, and don't get me wrong, they are amazing, but I think it can be a little bit overdone for me. Changing the colour of the boat a bit, just to give it a little bit more shape. That's cerulean blue. Just gave it that little bit of something, I thought. gives a sense of roundedness there. Just fun. There's little. Never sure whether to put the motor on it. Oh, it's on there now. A little window here. That's quite fun. I think that's all right. Just get a little sail coming down there. Yeah. So the boat's simply done. If you see how simply that done, that is really simply done. I've just given it just a few values, and the wonderful thing about painting, from my view, is that you don't have to paint detail. The eye will make it up. The amazing part about eyes is that they have an ability to imagine what's going on, and I think it's important to give that a chance to happen. You know, give it a chance for your brain to work out what something is. Okay, going back to the houses, we're on the home run. Home run. So just give it a little bit more of a window here. Door frame. Maybe that's a little bit too dark. I think it's definitely too dark. Have a little bit of tissue here. Yeah, that's better. So a lot of painting is about value. The relationship between light and dark. And if you can understand that relationship, then painting becomes a lot more simple and a lot more fun. And if you face it, that's why we're doing it. That's why you want to paint, because you want to enjoy yourself. You want to enjoy your painting process. Right. Now, we're really getting there now. Just a few details now. So there's a few bushes here. Let's get some of those in. Bigger bush here. Darkening. But you see, one thing I'm really pleased with is how these houses turned out. They're really simple. But somehow I feel that you can really tell what they are. Just a few dots here and there. Maybe some chains coming in. Okay, there's a little buoy right in the front at the bow of the boat here. And it's red, but I think that I should paint it yellow, because I don't see much yellow in the picture, and I think it'd be nicer yellow. Just a yellow dot there. And you just need to add a little bit of darkness underneath, which I'll do in just a little buoy. A bit of red. And a little bit of yellow reflection. Just add something there. Right, having a look at it now and thinking very carefully. This is the point in the painting where you could make a mistake and you could overdo something. Right, so I've just squeezed a little bit of white paint on, and I always squeeze it out at the last minute because it dries so quickly. And it's just a few hints of things. Like the sail, one or two touches here and there. So maybe just to give a little bit of top light to that. Let's do this carefully, the actual mast. And then up the top, and there's a part of the sail is open as well. So, okay, and then the top of the buoy, some lighter patches on the boat. Top just gives that extra sense of 3D. All of my decisions are really to try and make the painting more effective and better. Now I've reached a point now where I don't think I can make it much better. And that's when you need to learn to stop. I'm going to add one little mark here, just to give this a little bit of cerulean blue, just to give the sail a little bit of three-dimensionality, maybe a bit more. Good. And I'm looking at it, and I think that's pretty much done. One last thing to do is to sign it. So, James Potter. There we go. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. It was certainly nice to get my first painting in a while under my belt. I was a little bit nervous to paint this picture. Not painting for a long time, you think, well, can I do it or can I not do it? And luckily it turned out well, so it's quite a relief really. One thing that's important in art, particularly watercolour painting, well, all art really, is to be inspired and to have inspiration. And I've got quite a few books on art, from Sargent to Constable, all sorts of painters. I enjoy collecting my books, and they provide inspiration for me. And inspiration is one of the things that we all need. We all need to be inspired by something we like. And to have a watercolour painting on your wall is an inspiring thing, and it gives you hope that there is a way of improving, and seeing original watercolour on your wall gives you insights as well to how it's done and what the techniques were used in making the picture. With this in mind, I've decided to sell my watercolour paintings to my subscribers on YouTube. I feel that when you own an original piece of artwork, you can really analyse the painting very carefully, almost microscopically, to work out how it's done, really, and to work out the techniques that have been used. And also to inspire. Again, inspiration is what I really want to do with watercolour painting, to inspire other people to take up this fantastic hobby or profession. This also helps support our YouTube channel, as well as buy me a coffee, which has been great too. That's really helped us out. Scotland is a big country, but it's a small country as well. When you have to go round these mountains, it really extends the distances that we've got to travel. This painting measures 10 by 8 inches and it's on my usual Fabriano Artistico paper. The price of this is £60 including postage to Europe and £65 postage to the rest of the world. If you're interested in purchasing it, put a message in my comments box down below, and we're going to pick someone at random next Thursday. So until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.